Money Majors, Episode 15. Welcome to Money Majors, your podcast for young entrepreneurs by young entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Garrett.
And we're going to give you the latest rundown of the news and the latest happenings in the world of young entrepreneurs, student entrepreneurs, and other young people trying to dodge that really awful job market out there and pursue their dreams. I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that's a bad thing.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, let's face it, unemployment for young people is at 14%.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yes.
You know, and we've got people graduating from college and high school trying to think, what am I going to do with my life? They're facing that really real possibility, and so.
And does that number not include people who just took a job, like not a career, but just a job?
No, it's the unemployment. It's young people, I'd say under 30, who are unemployed.
Okay, so it doesn't factor in people who just kind of like grabbed whatever they could that wasn't necessarily in their career.
No, because that's employed.
Yeah, I guess, but it's not like career.
It's not a career, but it's not employed, and that's a serious problem. But every day we're picking up news articles, which we've got a few in here, that people are just like, forget it. I'm not going to go out there and fight my way through 150 interviews to not get a single job and completely waste myself. I need a job now, and so it's for my own company, or at least for a company to carry yourself over for a little bit until you're able to find a job in your career path. Or perhaps you find a job that's not in your career path, but you find you enjoy it more than had you stayed with your career.
Definitely, yeah.
All kinds of good stuff. So, we have a show update. Tell us about this.
We're starting to reach out to universities and companies about our show, and we started with both Babson and Mason, and Babson got back to us really quickly with some helpful people, and also a listing of both their undergrad and their MBA level entrepreneurs who are out starting businesses and participating in Babson programs. So not this episode, but perhaps in the next one we'll feature some of that. It was a really, really long email with a lot of different companies and ideas that we're going to have to look into. So we're really happy about that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to put this out there again, that if I were to magically get in the mail a Babson t-shirt for the springtime, I would gladly wear that around campus, and certainly would wear it when we did the podcast. I'd never wash it or anything. I would keep it sacred, and I would love to have a Babson t-shirt. So just putting that out there somewhere. But yeah, Babson's great, and we got good emails back from them. We're still waiting on a response, hopefully, from the Mason folks. We're probably going to reach out to them more personally. But as we get along in the podcast, Garrett, we're starting to reach out to some of these universities and some of the folks that we've covered, and we seem to be getting pretty good feedback.
Yep.
A lot of retweets.
A lot of them. It's awesome.
It is quite awesome. So, jump into the news. First article comes out of the Boston Business Journal, and it is on a new type of certification, a labeling for young consumer startups, and it's called YouthTrade. An old Cambridge nonprofit came up with this new kind of business certification idea where they can help promote socially conscious businesses owned by entrepreneurs under the age of 35. Companies such as the socially responsible clothing company Proxy Apparel, the health-conscious chocolate maker Perfect Fuel Chocolate. It's called YouthTrade. And what they would do is they would help to co-brand products with this YouthTrade certification to help promote these products as not only socially conscious, but by buying this product, you're supporting youth-run businesses. They have this new kind of concept which is called the triple bottom line, and that instead of aiming for that standard bottom line, which I know you love and cherish, Garrett, the profit bottom line, they want to bring in the people, planet, and profit bottom line. So a lot of times, as the article kind of goes on, it talks about that, people are very much interested in buying socially conscious products, and sustainable products, but the market isn't really willing to buy into some of the ones that are a little more expensive. People are still, by and large, going for that cheapest product. So they're hoping this new certification would raise awareness and get people to kind of be willing to spend that extra little bit of money to fulfill that you're supporting young people, but you're also helping the planet, helping the environment, and being socially conscious. That seems like a pretty cool idea. On March 15th, the company plans to host a YouthTrade Summit at the Microsoft Nerd Center, which I think we need to take a field trip there, in Cambridge to kind of formally kick off the project. Young entrepreneurs interested in a YouthTrade certification will be able to showcase at the event, and Whole Foods purchasing division will be holding meetings with some of these young entrepreneurs about carrying the company's products. They're hoping that by the end of 2012, they hope to have 50 businesses that year with the YouthTrade certification. And something that we'll need to kind of research a little more on, because we didn't find much on it, but they're also planning to launch in Nigeria, which I thought was pretty interesting. And they hope to have 20 businesses certified in that country by the end of the year. So what do you think of that whole idea of certification? Do you think products labeling and certifying themselves in certain ways will help? Here's a better question, Garrett. Does the youth label sell?
What do you mean, this?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you saw a product, when you're out shopping at some of the places that you go to, like Whole Foods and Dolce & Gabbana and some of these other high-end places that you like to shop at, if you found a product and you looked at the label and you recognized that this was a youth business, or this is a business started by a young person, mm-hmm. Is that to encourage you to buy or use the product or service?
Me, probably. Yeah, I feel like I'd be a little bit biased, kind of being in the young entrepreneur realm. Yeah, I'd favor that one.
Are you willing to pay more for that?
Depends.
How much? What depends? How much? I guess percentage-wise, what percentage of a product? Let's go for consumer products. Take for a high-end grocery store like Whole Foods, mm-hmm. and you see what? You see a product there. You see a food product or something, and mm-hmm. It advertises itself as a youth company, a company led by young people. What percentage do you think are you be willing to spend to support that?
It's kind of arbitrary, but for some reason I'm sticking with about 25% at max.
25%? Yeah, I can see that. That seems kind of reasonable.
I wouldn't pay like double.
Well, does that matter that it's socially conscious? Does that kind of figure into the
and
factor?
Also the certification is important because I'm not accusing any products of doing this, but some may be like, oh, we help the earth, sort of thing.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Just to increase sales and make people feel good. So I'm imagining that the certification is going to at least have some sort of standards as to how much of an environmental impact these products, are saving. And I think that's pretty sweet that they're able to, it's kind of a little bit of a stamp, but it's a way to at least ensure that there is some noticeable impact on the world. And products aren't just saying that they save the environment to get happy people.
We talked about something similar to this once upon a time about young people who were asked, do you want to work for a company that is socially, environmentally conscious?
Yeah, it has a social impact.
And the vast majority is like, of course, absolutely. Yeah. But how do you certify a company or certify something that is, because people want a job. Mm-hmm. People need certain things and people want certain things, and I think people are automatically going to say, sure, I'd love to buy socially conscious mm-hmm. products that benefit the planet. But when it comes right down to it, are they going to do it? And are the companies saying, we're green, we support the planet? How do you define them? But this is pretty good. So it does the dual part. It certifies that it's a socially responsible product, mm-hmm. but it also gives you that extra benefit of saying a young person came up with this. Mm-hmm. Kind of like if Girl Scout cookies were on the shelf of Whole Foods. Be like, socially conscious, supports young people and Girl Scouts, I'm in. Mm-hmm. Man, if you could buy Thin Mints all year round,
there's a business idea.
Obesity in America would skyrocket.
And then distribute them throughout the 12 months.
Obesity in America would probably go through the roof, at least in my household. So with that takes us into another article that was pretty interesting, that was from the Peninsula Press of Santa Clara and San Mateo, California. And this, of course, is around Stanford University. And the article is entitled, Starting a Company While Still in School. Stanford Entrepreneurs Share How It's Done. This week's at the event, Stanford's 2012 Entrepreneurship Week, they rounded up some speakers who were in school or started their companies while in school or just after graduating, but specifically got help from the startup accelerator for Stanford students called StartX. Some of these folks who showed up were like the mobile gaming technology company Game Closure. Their co-founders Michael Carter and Martin Hunt showed up and spoke on the record. And they talked about some of the things that StartX gave them and how StartX helped them and the ways they found help. For example, they talked about how the accelerator, StartX, provides the student entrepreneurs with office space, a stipend, legal and accounting and banking advice, but the focus of StartX was educational. So the accelerator doesn't take any of that equity, so they're able to feel a little more comfortable with working in that environment and sharing that environment. StartX's founder, Cameron Titleman, said that when companies are ready to actually start building, that's when they come around the corner to StartX. He's been involved in guiding some 40 companies through the program, and he's starting to see what works and what doesn't work. And so he's bringing back some of those companies to talk about what works and what doesn't work. He said that he gave some really good advice, I thought, in this article. And he said that before you start the company, as a young person, specifically if you're in school, you need to understand what your motivations are, how long you're willing to work for this company, and you also need to kind of decide on the roles, especially when you're with co-founders. Make sure you know what your strengths are, what the strengths of your co-founders are. If they overlap, figure out how you can work together on that. Figure out where you differentiate and go across. Another person who spoke was Brendan Milstein, who runs the company Carbon Lighthouse, which tries to make it profitable for organizations to eliminate their carbon footprint. He gave some great advice, and that was, he said, quote, "We really went through every insanely horrible thing we could think of in the beginning." He sat down with his co-founders, and they all wrote out a contract. And they talked about all the things that could possibly happen to them in the process of running this company. What if a family member got cancer and a founder had to take time off? Or what if a founder ran out of money and couldn't continue with the company? What would happen if those things happen, and how there would be an out? Almost like a prenuptial agreement to starting a company.
Must have been a pretty comprehensive list.
It is, but it seemed like it makes sense to when you're a young person, you don't have, it seems like as a young person, we don't have that insight, that history of running companies to know, well, if this problem happens, we do this. Mm-hmm. And we certainly don't have the money to say, well, if this problem happens, I'll just go get my lawyer. We don't have that freedom, that experience and that freedom of cash to go do these kind of things to resolve problems. So if you're a young company, a young startup,
you think it out in advance.
You think it out in advance, like a prenup, a business prenup. I thought that was such a great idea. But another one that some other folks who went and spoke was Monse Medina, who founded the company QWhisper. He gave some good advice, and he was talking about how the long hours of starting a business can be some of the most grueling part of the startup life. Mm-hmm. He said, quote, "Nothing can prepare you for how many hours and how much stress you have to go through when starting a company." Mm-hmm. I thought, wow, that you couldn't almost say it any better. And Brendan Milstein kind of echoed that in saying that working 100 hours a week just isn't one of the amazing aspects of building a company.
Yeah, I'm incredibly exhausted right now. I feel like a zombie due in part to stuff like this.
Yeah, it's a lot of. Well, didn't you say just last week that you had you tried to work 100 hours? You counted it up.
Yeah. So I've got so
week?
many different jobs and volunteer positions and stuff that's career related and indirect and stuff like that I was like, what, I'm always tired. I wonder how many hours I work, so I added them up, and it was definitely 100+ hours, and I was like, and that's why. And now when people are like, God, Garrett, why are you so tired? I was like, I work 100 hours a week, and that's truthful. And people are like, whoa, really? Because once you quantify something, it's not just like a general complaint. I mean, there's numbers to back it, and it's like, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, I mean, I get worn out. I've got multiple engineering projects I'm working on, multiple company projects I'm working on, and at some point you just become overwhelmed with it all. And then you have to start backpedaling and saying, how do I cut?
Yeah.
If you're working 120 hours a week and sleeping 4 hours a night, and where do you cut? How do you draw it back without jeopardizing everything?
I think also keeping track of the hours has helped me with figuring out what to take on is like new work and what to delay, or what, like, how to position myself. Like if I'm gonna work with something, I know how much effort I can put into it and how much I need to expect from someone else. So kind of getting a baseline of what your current schedule's like, just observe it if you can. I'm really heavy on Google Calendar, so it was easy for me because like basically even like checking my emails now on my Google Calendar. So that was easy for me to figure out. But if you just feel like your energy's being zapped, maybe you need to look into like the kind of hours you keep and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was just some really great advice. You can find out more in the article and read up some of the more some of these speeches they give also at the StartX website, which we'll have a link in the show notes to about this event and some of the other things. So moving on, the Toronto Star has a really great article entitled "Youth Entrepreneurs: Why Launching a Business from Your Childhood Bedroom is More Possible Than Ever." That caught my eye because I thought maybe this was about really young people, like 16, 17 years old, but they're actually talking about 30-year-olds still in their childhood bedrooms, which kind of it caught me off guard. But the article makes some very good points, and we'll get into those in a second. But essentially, it starts off by talking about how the climate for youth entrepreneurs it seems better than ever, particularly in the knowledge sectors where young people have the advantages of low startup cost and technology know-how. There's a fellow named A.J. Agrawal, who's a professor at University of Toronto's Rotman School of Management. He puts down this idea that this is a good time for really 5 reasons. Number one, the culture of it all. With people like Mark Zuckerberg, Drew Houston, David Karp of Tumblr, all these young, successful CEOs, they're perfect role models. People can look at folks like the Zuck and say he's 27, 28 years old and he's a billionaire. He's a great role model. If he can do it, by gosh, I can do it. Technology is making it much, much, much more easier to kind of get into the flow of starting a business and actually creating things without having to go out and spend a lot of money and put a lot of time into an area you may not know about. It used to be only people who were, I think, MBAs and lawyers and accountants. They were starting businesses because they knew the fundamentals of starting a business. But with technology, you can just create a website and actually try to make money. There's also a lean methodology, which we've talked about in the past, the quote lean startup, where you're able to, the costs of starting a business have fallen dramatically. And with careful planning, you can get a business started for less than $10,000 or something like that. And finally, infrastructure, as we've been talking about with the example StartX, the opportunities for mentorship, training, and funding have really grown. And on top of that, the access to capital. Investors are more willing to fund a 22-year-old today than ever. They see everything else, and they see the social network, and they see Facebook, and they see Mashable, and they see Tumblr, and they go, well, that 19-year-old was able to make a business and make money. Maybe we should start listening to some of these 19-year-olds. So the article actually starts asks some of the more successful folks, young entrepreneurs in Canada, what were some of the pros and cons of being a young CEO? What kind of advice really helped you out? And I just picked a few of these out of here, and you can go through, there's about a dozen in here, and they're all really good examples. But first off is Brian Wong, the CEO of Kip.me. He's 20 years old. At the age of 19, he became one of the youngest people in Canada to get funding from a venture capital firm. He got $4.5 million to develop a company that combines kind of mobile gaming with marketing. And he said there's really 2 key advantages to being a young entrepreneur and a young person in this field. That's number one, you have the element of surprise. He says you're walking into a conversation being totally underestimated, which usually gives you the upper hand when you actually know what you're doing. It becomes a little more deadly when you're in negotiations, so to speak. So people underestimate you. He says there's high expectations because of that, one movie, as he said, The Social Network. The expectation is that young people have the potential, that there's a small chance we can actually do something big enough to affect the way the world has changed. So high expectations for young people, and so people are actually being able to say, absolutely, you're a young person, we think you can go all the way. So his number one piece of advice that I really liked was that sometimes you have to get up and leave. You have to move. You have to go somewhere else. In his case, he moved from Vancouver down to San Francisco. for his to start his business, because he said that in San Francisco, in 1 square mile around his office building are 40 startups that he could get. He couldn't get that back home. So I thought that was really cool. So let's see what else we got in here. We have another wonderful company listed, and it is by Haley Coleman, and she's the CEO of a really aptly named company called Damn Heels.
I hear this after you explained this company to me. I was like, you know what? I don't personally wear heels, but a lot of my friends complain of that, and I was like, oh my god, I wonder if they've heard about this. They definitely would be customers. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Apparently, hobbling home barefoot after a night in heels, she realized something needed to be done about this. So in December of 2009, she launched a company that makes fold-up flat shoes that can conveniently swap with stilettos. And I thought, wow, that seems like an interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
So she came up with this idea, and her advantages of being a young person is that you're eager to learn. You're young, you have lots of energy. Nothing was a roadblock. It was all creative problem solving and figuring out how to get things done. But she also says that being young is an advantage in and of itself, because she found that it was benefiting her because people were so amazed that a young person was doing this. So they're like, wow, a young person, they're doing a great job. Her advice, which came from her role model, was that to surround yourself with amazing people, because finding those people in the industry who can help you out can help kind of guide you along the way. And her role model is the great Richard Branson, of course. So thought that was really, really cool. So let's see. Moving along, one of my favorite events is called TED. You know TED.
I do. From you?
Yeah.
Well, not yeah, but you talk about it quite a bit.
TED is Technology, Entertainment, and Design. It is an event held in California multiple times throughout the year on multiple different topics. TED is kind of a... If you've never heard of TED, how would you explain TED, Garrett? You tell me. How would you explain TED?
At least with the talks, it makes complex topics more digestible, which I find to be awesome. There was the spaghetti sauce one that I love.
Oh
my
yeah.
god, you linked to me.
Malcolm Gladwell.
And yeah, I spread the word about that one all the time. And actually, I think about that a lot when thinking of like solutions for clients, or they present me with a problem. I often think about stuff that comes up in TED Talks.
TED Talks are it's a conference that's kind of it's aimed at finding unique ideas and disseminating them. In fact, the tagline is "Ideas worth spreading."
Mm-hmm.
They've had everyone from Jane Goodall, Malcolm Gladwell, Richard Dawkins, Bill Gates, Larry Page, and Sergey Brin, many Nobel Prize winners. TED has kind of become the place where high intellectual people go to talk about new ideas and to spread new ideas and to meet other people who are spreading really new ideas. And of course, anything I see on TED, I think, oh, I got to read that. So I stumbled across this article in the Wall Street Journal, which is entitled, "For Some, TED Spells Deal." Now, the article is about how people who go to TED may not be there to give a talk. They may be there just to see the talks that are given. But because of the kinds of people that go to TED, venture capitalists, Fortune 500 CEOs, really brilliant people like Dean Kamen and Richard Branson, you get to run into these kind of people and you get to talk to them and share your ideas with them. The article starts off by talking about Ben Kaufman, who back in 2009 was just a 22-year-old entrepreneur, and he was just kind of mumbling around one of the dinners at the TED conference in California, and he was a little down because he couldn't persuade any of the investors to finance his new venture. Then he ran into a guy named Jason Port, who was a former sales director at CBS Sportsline. And Kaufman kind of told him about this idea that he wanted to create a design company that created products that were recommended to them by the community. So a community would recommend products, and they would decide that this is a good product, that we're a community of consumers, we want to see it made, and they promote it, and they just make it. Well, Port didn't quite understand the business concept. He didn't quite understand what the guy was getting at, but he saw that Kaufman had that. He needed someone to believe in him, and he had that really interesting kindred spirit of an entrepreneur. And so he decided to take a chance and said, sure, let's do this. So he went up to his hotel room and wrote him a $200,000 check and started the company Quirky.
That's pretty quick and immediate. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, Quirky is now a product development company, and they actually just started the Sundance Channel has a reality program about life at the offices at Quirky. And Quirky comes up with innovative, interesting products which the community recommends to them, and then they vote on them, and they decide which ones they're going to make and which ones they're going to pursue. It's like a social development Procter and Gamble. I thought that was really, really cool. But getting back into the article, a lot of at this TED conference, a lot of deals are going down, and a lot of people are meeting each other and making things happen. There's a fellow named Juliette de Bogbigny. I can't even say that name. Bogbigny, a partner at venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins Caulfield and Byers. She says that a lot of mergers and acquisitions happen here to VC investment deals at TED. The conference is heavily attended by CEOs and entrepreneurs, angel investors, and venture capitalists, all looking for the next big thing. This year, a reporter bumped into venture capitalists from many of the top firms like Greylock Partners, Kleiner Perkins, August Capital, angel investors, and executives at promising startups like Kickstarter, Tumblr, and Uber. So it seems like they're all running into each other. It's kind of like Davos, but for more of a technology-aimed, younger crowd. Nicholas Zenstrom, who's the co-founder of Skype, and he's now a venture capitalist with the firm Atomico. His firm, agrees on financial deals, venture financing deals at TED with a handshake. They're sending people all the time to negotiate these kind of deals and to find people there. So I thought that was really cool. Anybody can attend TED. You don't have to be anyone special. It's expensive. It's not cheap. But you can buy a ticket, you can go, and you can probably find and at least glean some support for your ideas out there somewhere.
Do you know generally what they cost?
What do they cost? To get into TED, I think it's actually probably a couple of $1,000s.
And this is in addition to airfare and hotel and everything else?
Yeah, this would be... there's about... some people have talked about the numbers go up to about $6,000.
Is that for general admission?
Yeah, for general admission, just to be able to actually go and sit and listen to some of the talks. It's not a cheap conference, but you can see it from home. You can enjoy it live and things with the videos, because they put out a lot of different videos. But it's not cheap, and I actually don't know precisely how much it costs because they tend to change. But for about $1,000, I think you can show up to TED for about $1,000, and you can see the conference and kind of interact with people. There's other things that you can some smaller side shows, some side activities, dinners, and networking events that are going to cost you a little bit more. But generally speaking, it can get pretty expensive. I'm kind of looking at the list here as I was pulling up. TED Global 2012, which is in June. Price of attendance is $6,000. TED 2013, The Young, the Wise, the Undiscovered, which will be in Long Beach, is $7,500. TED Active 2013 will be $2,500, and it just kind of keeps going and going and going. So it's definitely for people who are serious. It's not for folks like us who gadflies who go hang out at CES for free. There's going to be no free tickets to getting to TED, which is a shame.
We'll see.
But I plan on going to TED. I definitely want to I want to go just so I can see some of these people and just kind of see how they interact with each other and see how they make deals and talk to one another. I think that'd be really interesting to find out how it works.
I'll look into it.
So what we got next, Garrett?
I got 2 articles to share. The first is about an individual from New Jersey who went out to Hollywood. The article is $500 and a Dream, the road to becoming a Hollywood PR agent. This is from businessnewsdaily.com. And Hollywood is a tough town, but this guy from Jersey was able to break into it. He wanted to be a publicist, but that was not really his intention from the beginning. He started running his public relations business from his bedroom in his parents' house, and he moved to California in 2006 and started Grapevine PR. He's now 30. Stephen Levine, or Levine, not quite sure. But he was inducted into the Young Entrepreneur Council, the YEC, an invite-only organization comprised of only the country's most promising young entrepreneurs, which is a great honor. And he thinks that the entertainment business, he always thought the entertainment business was hard to break into and you had to be pushy and aggressive. And he says, I simply wasn't that. But he likes to think that he snuck in from the side door on his own terms, again, not being pushy or aggressive. And he can't say that he had a planned out approach to his success, but it just happened organically. So this is kind of a point where you don't have to plan everything out. You can just kind of fly by the seat of your pants and see what happens. But he says when he started Grapevine PR, it wasn't his intention to be working as Hollywood as an entrepreneur. It was more about the freedom and opportunities that entrepreneurship offers him, and he has full control over his career. And he did not have one connection at all to Hollywood when he started his company. It was very, very grassroots. And he says that every relationship he built is a direct result of either another fruitful relationship, his accomplishments, or just putting himself out there. For example, one of his clients is an absolutely amazing musician who happens to be a longtime guitarist for the biggest pop star in the world, Madonna. So those sorts of connections are very, very useful, of course. But he started his business with literally $500 in his savings account, which he used to create a logo, business cards, a printer, and any other random supplies. He's never had any funding or investors. He says, of course, it has taken a longer period of time and much more effort to get where he is now without funding, but he has no regrets at all. What he did learn from this experience is how lonely it can be. We've talked about this with the hours, but how outside people don't understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. When he launched his business, he did so while also working his first job. So by day, he was an assistant account executive at a major PR firm, and by night, he was the president of his own PR agency with a number of my own clients. And he says it was like living a double life. I wonder if they did not want him. Normally, you'll have like non-competes.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Same. Yeah.
I did the same thing. I was working for a lobbying firm, a top 10, one of the top lobbying firms in the country, and by night I was pursuing my own clients.
Yeah.
And pursuing my own gigs, and I was pursuing, and I would go into the lobbying firm the next morning and test out my ideas before I tested them with the clients.
Oh my God.
I mean, I was a young kid. I was young and I was starting out, but I was like, that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
and that's probably where he really
you're kind of
a success.
You have a larger umbrella to protect you. But he was saying that his family thought he was crazy and they were mean. And he said that they thought working for someone else offered him stability. They would tell him things like he wasn't really an entrepreneur because he wasn't making any money.
Yeah,
they thought they thought he was throwing his career in the garbage. Well, he's probably laughing at him now. So he says, don't ever let anyone else tell you what to do or what you want to do with your life. Only you know. And, if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. And never burn any bridges, which is important. And look for those who are like-minded, whether it's young entrepreneur organizations like the Young Entrepreneur Council or simply other mastermind groups. So really, really great article. Definitely worth looking into and reading in full.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of... we talked once upon a time about this guy who is an entrepreneur, and he started off as a gang member, if you recall, and he had a lot of people who told him, you're not going to be anything. You're not. You've had a criminal record. There's no way you're ever going to really actually be able to make something of yourself. It was a guy, Ryan Blair. He wrote a book that we talked about in an earlier podcast called Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. And he literally went from, being in and out of jail and being a gang member to being a very successful entrepreneur right there in Hollywood. So sometimes you need someone to tell you you're not going to be anything and you're not going to succeed. I get that all the time. And every time someone tells me, John, this class is over your head, you should drop this class, as I've had advisors tell me.
That's the biggest motivator.
John, this is just not going to work. It just makes me want to work that much harder. Now, perhaps I'm stupid in thinking that, of course I can climb Mount Everest without oxygen. But sometimes you need to just fight. And if you really believe that you can do it, do it. Don't let other people tell you that you can't do it. Because you never know when that one time that you actually followed their advice and didn't pursue it because they told you couldn't do it, that could have been the one time that you actually would have made it and done something really good.
And only you know what you're capable of. Other people typically have a pretty limited view of what you can do, so they may not be the best person to give you that kind of advice.
Yeah, definitely.
Next, and finally, is an article that has to do with an overall trend where we're seeing things that are kind of being outsourced in the sense of, like, let's say, for instance, postagram, the service where you take a picture with your smartphone when you're on vacation on the beach, you send it to postagram, and for what, like 99 cents, $1,
Yeah.
something really
99 cents.
around there, they will send a printed postcard to the person of your choosing, which is really neat, very convenient. Take a photo, pay a little money, and grandma's happy, which is actually something I need to use for family.
You should definitely use it, because not only does it print out the postcard, and it prints the picture that you've taken with your smartphone, but that picture pops out of the postcard. You can actually pop that out of the postcard and save the picture.
Cool.
So it's a wonderful idea. It's a free app. It's like $1.99. It's 99 cents to $1.99 depending on which one you use, and which kind of picture that you take and which kind of postcard that you're going to send.
And with these smartphones coming out with higher and higher caliber cameras, I mean, you're just going to get better and better pictures. So you got a very capable device typically right on your hip. Just go ahead and use it. Sweet.
Yeah, because I send a lot of postcards. I like sending postcards because I find that my family members like to, especially my grandmother.
Yeah, I still got to send one out from CES, which was nearly 2.5 months ago now, or 1.5 something. It was January 10th, I think,
That's
when we
terrible,
first were out there.
Gary.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of behind on everything. You should see my inbox.
Man.
But yeah. So anyway, this article is about an individual, Mr. Wei. He's 25, and he emerged a winner of the second Young Entrepreneur Awards, taking home $17,000 worth of prizes. And his idea was an online picture frame store where customers can upload their photos and choose personalized frames. The finished product will be printed, produced, and delivered to a customer's doorstep. This whole awards thing was jointly organized by Canon and MediaCorp, and it's an extension of Canon's Think Big campaign, which called for proposals outlining innovative products or services that can be developed and potentially turned into a real business. And a total of 127 proposals were received. So this is, we're seeing an overall trend where you just kind of take some simple actions such as take a photo, and then everything else is handled for you for some small, convenient amount of money, whatever it is. And magically stuff shows up at your door, whatever, so that's really sweet, where you never have to get into the details of, in this case, taking a photo, printing that photo from one company, going to a second company to make the frames, and then going to a third company to ship the frame to either, to someone, assuming you're not accepting it yourself. But yeah, that's really awesome that they're able to do that. And they're able to centralize too, which is a really sweet thing. You got one framing factory in the country probably, where all the orders are processed. You don't have regional framing factories, one in each town that a person can go physically visit. This is sweet. So I think it's efficient for them, and probably cheaper for them to pull off to serve the amount of customers that you can serve versus like regional type businesses. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. These little tiny things that people are doing to automate their life, and to take these tasks which they do and maybe takes a little time out of their day, but they have to do it in multiple steps. If you can break down something into one quick little take a picture and go, I think it actually is really, really cool. This kind of reminded me of
It reminds me of the parking meter app really quick, which I love.
Oh yeah,
You know about the DC parking meter?
I use it all the time.
Yeah, I forget the name. It's in my phone. But you pay by phone for your parking meter, and it'll send you reminders. It's about to expire, sort of thing. So if you're in a bar, you're in a meeting, you don't want to leave the meeting, just to simply put some more change in the machine. You can re-up. And it's great. I used it the other day. It's awesome. They have a little bit of a service charge, but I think the convenience outweighs it.
It's definitely worth the convenience. I did it on Capitol Hill for the first time.
When did they start? I thought that was pretty recent.
Oh no, it's been around for about a year.
Wow.
About a year. I've done it twice. I did it once when I was in Georgetown, and of the two places where parking is next to passing an act of Congress, parking in Georgetown or on Capitol Hill is a nightmare. I think the city of Washington, D.C. makes most of their money from those two locations because the parking is a nightmare. It's very confusing. You never know where you're allowed to park, during which times of which days. It's just maddening. And not everyone has change.
The cool thing is, if you're not allowed to park there and you try to pay for a spot with this app, it'll tell you no.
Yeah.
Restricted time. So it's kind of easy. It's kind of like, give it a shot, see what happens.
But here's an even better one. The change-filled parking meters, they keep raising the price of the parking meters and lowering the time with which you can park there for your money.
Okay, so a quarter is getting less and less time.
A quarter is getting you a minute.
Oh, I thought it was like 7. Whatever.
Yeah, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, but a quarter is only getting you 5 minutes. And so, if you're going to go, you got to put in 6 quarters just to be able to get, 30 minutes out of the deal. Well, eventually that little small box in the meter fills up. Once it fills up, it's not going to take change anymore.
And you're going to get a ticket.
You're going to get a ticket because you can't use it.
Yeah.
No one else can use it until the parking meter person comes by and takes the change out.
You'll get a ticket for, parking at a defective meter. Like, they'll still ticket you like you're at fault.
Absolutely.
Sort of thing. And then
Absolutely.
you've got to go through appeals, which may or may not be reversed.
Yeah.
So you're kind of responsible for finding a fully functional meter. And
Yeah,
I'm not carrying around that kind of, change. I don't really carry change because it's bulky and annoying and whatever. So yeah, I love the app.
Well, as finish my point is that some of the meters on the National Mall are being replaced with the ones that take credit cards, and they're solar powered. So it's a normal-looking parking meter that takes change, but you can also just swipe your credit card into it.
Cool.
And that works. But then this app comes to town and completely revolutionizes it because, you can be sitting there and you don't have to run out and pump change into a stupid system or go fiddle with a box that's a half a block away that probably doesn't work. You can just be sitting in a meeting and I did this, pressed the button, and I laughed because I was like, take that, meter maid. So, but your idea of these automated, like postagram, reminded me of an Amazon.com service called Subscribe and Save. And it's strange when you think about it, but it's strange when you first hear it. When you think about it, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Have you ever run out of toilet paper?
Okay.
Everyone's run out of toilet paper. Everyone at some point in their life is going to run out of shampoo, toilet paper, dishwashing liquid, some kind of product that you buy regularly and that you use all the time. Okay? Amazon's got this new kind of service that they started last year. It's free shipping, but you subscribe to products. In the same way that you subscribe to a magazine subscription, you subscribe to a toilet paper subscription. And you estimate how much toilet paper you use in a month. You subscribe, and they automatically send to you before you run out of that product. And they do it for free. So let's say...
But you're determining time and usage.
You're determining that, let's say I run through, 6, 7 rolls of toilet paper a month, and I run through 6, 7 rolls of paper towels and 1 bottle of dishwashing liquid in a month. I subscribe to the Amazon Subscribe and Save program. They say, okay, every month we will send you this package of these items, so you never run out. So
Amway does that too, actually.
I'm not even going to get in Amway.
Yeah, it's a monthly ordering system. I was like, I recognize this. So not totally revolutionary, but that's still cool. Yeah, the objective here is to eliminate the need to just like go refine the products that you're going to use anyway.
Taking a task which you do all the time, which you like for me, getting postcards, I had to go all over Phoenix to find postcards. And I finally found a little tiny small display of postcards at Walgreens.
Oh, wow.
Like 6 times. Then I had to go find a damn post office that was open that I could get stamps. I waited in line for, like 30 minutes at the post office in Phoenix just to get postcard stamps.
Wow,
so I could send postcards to my family members. I really...
And they're really not personal. I mean, they're preset images of whatever.
Well, I write stuff on them, but, it should have dawned on me to use postagram.
Yeah.
That would have made so much, because I could have taken a beautiful picture of the Phoenix sunset and just fired it away, because the postcards were about $1 a piece and the stamp was 34 cents, which is about how much it costs.
And you're going to save 30 plus minutes, which is and gas and everything else.
And gas and everything, yeah. Just
the point is to be on vacation, not to be running errands.
I like sending postcards. My family collects them and they like seeing them, and I like writing quirky messages. But anyways, that about wraps up the wonderful episode 15.
Boom.
Boom, another one down. So, as always, if you love us, hate us, you got suggestions for us, by all means, drop us an email, podcast@moneymajors.net. Follow us on Twitter and see our wonderful tweets at Money Majors. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/moneymajors, where you can throw us comments, argue with other people about how awesome we are or not, or whatever. Visit us, put in your information, and say hello. Also, check out our website for our show notes at moneymajors.net. And as always, we thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Money, 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 all I ever hear these days. Every song that the DJ plays, talking of a similar situation. Ain't got none and got to get some. Gotta have more than I had before. Gotta have more than the man next door. Every day I gotta make some more, some more, some more. Well, give me a break, yeah, or let me take some time out. Gotta frisk my mind out before I lose my life now.